The year is 2023. The air in the tasting room is cool. It smells of fermented fruit and clean steel. Ilara Vance gestures to a simple frame on the wall. It hangs between two gleaming silver medals. A young food blogger leans in close. The document inside is a simple supply contract, typed on an old machine. The letterhead reads, Simmons Orchard. The blogger scans the terms, then his eyes stop. He reads the line again. Exclusive right to purchase all B-grade Seckel and Bosc pears. He looks up at Ilara, confused. B-grade? That's the industry term for seconds, the ugly ones, the ones for juice, for sauce, for anything but a grocery store shelf. But your cider, he starts to say. It wins awards for its complexity, its depth. Ilara Vance smiles a slow, knowing smile. That's the point, she says. The room is silent for a moment, just the hum of the cooling tanks. The blogger understands he has just found the real story. A story not about what something looks like, but what it is. The gap between those two things is where legends are born. This is the kind of story we search for. The ones buried in the soil, written in ledgers no one reads anymore. Stories about value where the world sees none. About the quiet, stubborn work of proving people wrong, not with anger, but with results. If you believe those stories need to be told, if you believe in the triumph of the overlooked, subscribe to this channel, because the story of Arthur Simmons and his ugly pears is just the beginning, and you won't want to miss what we uncover next. To understand that contract on the wall, you have to go back to a different time. The year is 1988. Ronald Reagan is president. A gallon of gas costs 91 cents, and Arthur Simmons is 24 years old. He stands in the yard of his family's farm, the farm his father left him 6 months before. A heart attack in the high branches of a Bosc pear tree. Quick, too quick. Now it's all his. The two-story farmhouse with its peeling white paint. The red barn with its sagging roofline, and 60 acres of pear trees. Seckel, Bosc, Bartlett. Old trees, planted by his grandfather. Gnarled, thick-trunked, defiant. They produce a specific kind of fruit. Not the perfect, waxy, uniform pears you see in a supermarket. These are smaller, denser, often misshapen. Their skin is frequently covered in a fine brownish web. Russeting, it's called, a reaction to rain or cool weather during bloom. It doesn't hurt the fruit. In fact, it's a sign of high sugar content, a sign of character. But it isn't pretty, and in 1988, pretty is all that matters. Arthur spends the late summer harvesting, by himself, up and down the ladder, the gentle tug and twist to free the fruit, the careful placement in the wooden crates. His father had taught him the sound of a ripe pear, the dull thump it makes in the palm of your hand. He fills his flatbed truck, crate after crate of ugly, perfect pears. He drives the 10 miles into town, to the regional fruit cooperative, the place his father and grandfather sold their fruit for 50 years. A long, low building of corrugated metal. The air thick with the sweet smell of ripening peaches. Frank Miller comes out to meet him. Frank is the co-op manager, a good man, president of the Rotary Club, coaches Little League on Saturdays. He has known Arthur his whole life. He helped carry Arthur's father's casket. Frank looks at the crates in the back of the truck. He picks up a Bosc pear, turns it over in his hand. His face is kind, which makes it worse. He sighs. Art, he says, I was afraid of this. He gestures at the russeting, at the small, irregular shapes. I can't take these for the fresh market pack, son. You know the rules. They have to be grade A, uniform color, no surface blemishes. This is what the big chains demand. Arthur stands there. He says nothing. He already knew what Frank would say. His father fought this fight every year. Frank continues, his voice gentle. I can give you the cannery price. $70 a ton. Arthur does the math in his head. It won't even cover the cost of fuel to get here. It's an insult dressed up as a favor. "No thank you, Frank." He says it quietly. Frank puts a hand on his shoulder. "Son, listen to me. Your dad was a great man, but he was stubborn. These old trees, they're not commercial. The market has changed. You need to replant, put in something modern, something pretty. I'm not going to be the man who watches you go broke honoring your father's mistakes. Think about it. It's the only way forward." Certainty about another person's capabilities, delivered with kindness, is more damaging than outright hostility. It cannot be fought with anger. It cannot be dismissed as cruelty. It can only be disproven. And that takes decades. Arthur drives home, the truck heavy with rejected fruit. He doesn't unload it. He parks it by the barn and walks inside. The barn is cool and dark. It smells of dust and old oil and dried apples. On a wooden peg near the door hang his father's pruning shears, Felco, Swiss-made. The red handles worn smooth, the blade kept sharp as a razor. He takes them down, feels the familiar weight in his hand. He can hear his father's voice, not as a memory, but as a presence in the quiet barn. "The fruit knows what it is, son. It ain't its job to be beautiful for everyone. Its job is to be true to the tree. You just gotta find who's listening." Arthur closes his eyes. He makes a decision, not with anger, not with defiance, but with a deep, quiet resolve. He will not replant. He will not chase the market. He will listen to the fruit. That first winter is hard. The $70 a ton from the cannery feels like charity. He takes what he can get. It's not enough. He sells firewood to make ends meet. He patches the barn roof himself. He eats a lot of pear butter. The neighbors talk. They are good people. They are worried people. They see a young man failing. They see good land being wasted. "Stubborn," they say at the feed store. "Just like his old man." A shame. That boy is going to lose everything. One neighbor, a man named Henderson, who runs a large modern apple orchard, stops by. He offers to buy 20 acres, a fair price, more than fair. "Art," he says, "let me help you out of this hole. You can use the money to replant the other 40, get a fresh start." Arthur looks out at the gnarled trunks of his trees, silhouetted against the winter sky. They look like old soldiers. "No thank you, Mr. Henderson. I'm not selling." Henderson shakes his head and drives away. He thinks the boy is a fool. He is a kind man who is certain he is right. Have you ever been told you couldn't do something, not by an enemy, but by a friend? By someone who genuinely believed they were protecting you from failure? What do you do with that kind of certainty? How do you fight a ghost? Let me know in the comments below. Because Arthur Simmons didn't fight. He worked. He began to listen. He spent that winter in the local library, reading old books on pomology, the science of fruit cultivation. He learned that russeting wasn't a flaw. It was a response, a sign the skin of the pear was thicker, more cork-like. And in that thicker skin were concentrated compounds, tannins, phenols, the building blocks of complex flavor. The grocery store saw a blemish. Arthur began to see a signature. The next spring he prunes the trees differently, not for size, but for sun exposure. He wants to encourage the stress that creates the russet. He thins the fruit, leaving fewer pears on each branch. The ones that remain grow denser. He starts keeping a logbook, a simple spiral notebook. He records rainfall, soil temperature, bloom dates. He buys a cheap refractometer to measure the sugar content of the juice, the Brix level. His pears consistently measure higher than the commercial varieties. He is no longer just a farmer. He is a student of his 60 acres. He is learning the language of his land. The harvest of 1989 comes. The pears are just as ugly, even uglier. Arthur doesn't even bother driving to the co-op. He buys a hand-cranked cider press from a farm auction, an old wooden thing. He spends a week taking it apart, cleaning it, replacing the seals. He sets it up in the barn. He presses a few bushels of pears. The juice that runs out is thick, amber-colored. It's so sweet it makes his teeth ache. But underneath the sweetness, there is something else, an astringency, a bitterness on the back of the tongue, tannin, flavor. He builds a small wooden stand at the end of his driveway, paints a simple sign, fresh pear cider. He sells it by the gallon jug. He also sells bags of the ugly pears. The sign for those reads, "Ugly pears, great taste." People stop, mostly out of curiosity. They buy a jug of cider. They come back the next week for 2. He sells out every weekend. He doesn't make much money, but it's his money, earned on his terms. It's more than the cannery would have paid him, and it feels like a victory. Let me tell you about the next 23 years, because this is where the story becomes a quiet epic, a slow, grinding battle against perception, fought with a cider press and a spiral notebook. 1990. The co-op officially sends him a letter, informing him his membership is under review due to non-delivery. Frank Miller signs it. Arthur files it away. His roadside stand profit, $2,150. 1992. A late frost damages half his crop. The co-op offers emergency loans to its members. Arthur is no longer a member. He sells the damaged pears for a deep discount to a local pig farmer. He breaks even for the year. He learns about resilience. 1995. He has saved enough money. He buys a small, used bottling machine, cash. He starts making pear butter, his mother's recipe. He sells it at the farmer's market in the next town over. His profit for the year? $6,500. Frank Miller sees him there one Saturday. He buys a jar of pear butter. "Good for you, Art," he says. "Glad to see you making a go of it." He means it. 1998. The Henderson boy, son of the man who tried to buy his land, gets an MBA. He convinces his father to replant half their orchard with a new, patented apple variety. It's bright red, perfectly round, and travels well. It has almost no flavor. The supermarkets love it. The Hendersons make a fortune. Arthur's profit? $11,000. 2001. A developer offers to buy his farm, wants to put in a subdivision. The offer is staggering. Enough money to never work again. Arthur says no without even thinking about it. The developer is stunned. Why? "My trees are just getting started," Arthur says. The developer thinks he's insane. 2005. He buys a neighboring 10-acre parcel that has gone fallow. Cash. He doesn't plant new trees. He spends 2 years amending the soil, cover crops, and compost. He is patient. The land will tell him when it's ready. His profit from cider and pear butter? $23,000. He is not getting rich. But he is free. He owes no one. He asks permission from no one. His hands are calloused. His face is lined by the sun. He is happy. Frank Miller retires from the co-op. At his retirement party, someone mentions Arthur Simmons. Frank shakes his head. "A stubborn man," he says. "Could have been one of our best growers. A real shame." He still believes he was right. He believes he tried to help. The most dangerous limitation is the one imposed by someone who genuinely believes they are protecting you. The year is 2012. The world has changed. A movement is underway. People are tired of perfect, flavorless food. They are looking for something real. They call it craft. They call it artisanal. They call it terroir. The idea that a food should taste like the specific place it came from. A young woman named Ilara Vance is part of this movement. She is a trained chemist who fell in love with fermentation. She has a business plan, a small inheritance, and a vision to create a world-class American hard cider. Not the sweet, fizzy stuff in six-packs, but something dry, complex, and profound, like a fine wine. To do that, she needs the right fruit. She needs sugar for alcohol, acid for brightness, and tannin for structure and mouthfeel. She spends 6 months visiting orchards all over the state. She tastes a lot of perfect, beautiful fruit, and it's all boring. It lacks character. It has no soul. Then she hears a rumor from an old farmer at a Grange Hall meeting. He talks about a man named Simmons, a hermit with an orchard full of old, ugly pear trees. The old farmer laughs. That boy Art's been growing canning pears his whole life, too stubborn to change. Ilara's ears perk up. Stubborn, old trees, ugly fruit. That's the recipe for character. She finds his number. She calls him. Arthur is wary. He has heard it all before. But something in her voice is different. She doesn't ask about tonnage or appearance. She asks about soil type and brix levels. He agrees to let her visit. She drives her pickup truck down his long gravel driveway. She sees the old farmhouse, the neat, well-tended rows of ancient trees. Arthur meets her in the yard. He is in his late 40s now, quiet, reserved. He doesn't offer a handshake. He offers her a pear, a bosque. It's lumpy, brown, and completely covered in russet. It is the ugliest pear she has ever seen. She takes a bite, and the world stops. An explosion of flavor, intense, honeyed sweetness, followed by a wave of acidity, and then, on the finish, a pleasant, drying bitterness that coats her tongue. Tannin. It's all there, in one ugly piece of fruit. Her eyes go wide. She looks at Arthur. He just nods as if to say, "I told you so." He takes her to the barn, shows her his logbooks. 24 years of data. Rainfall, temperature, sugar, harvest dates. She sees his small press, his bottling line. He pours her a glass of his fresh cider. She tastes it. It's the most complex pear juice she has ever encountered. She can taste the soil, the sun, the struggle. "This is what I've been looking for," she says. "This is it." Arthur looks at her. "The co-op says they're only good for canning." Ilara almost laughs. "The co-op sells to people who buy with their eyes. I sell to people who buy with their mouths." "This isn't a flaw," she says, pointing to the russeted skin of a pear. "This is the engine of flavor." "What's your average yield on the bosque and the seckel?" Arthur tells her the numbers. She pulls a notebook from her bag, scribbles some calculations. "I'll take all of it," she says. "Everything you can grow, and I want a 5-year exclusive contract. I'm building my brand around this fruit, around your fruit." Arthur is silent. He has been waiting his whole life for someone to listen. He didn't know it until this moment. "What's the price?" he asks. His voice is steady. Ilara names a price per ton. It is 3 times what the co-op pays for perfect, grade A, fancy pears. Arthur stares at her for a long moment. He is not calculating money. He is calculating the weight of 24 years of being told he was wrong. He nods. Just once. "Okay," he says. A few weeks later, Arthur is at the farm supply store. The new manager of the co-op is there, a young man with a business degree. He's standing with Frank Miller, the retired manager. Frank sees Arthur. He walks over, a big smile on his face. "Art," he says, clapping him on the back. "Heard the good news. Someone's finally taking those old pears off your hands. A cidery, I hear?" Frank is genuinely happy for him. He sees it as a lucky break for the stubborn boy he tried to help. "A nice little niche market. Good for you. I always knew you'd find a place for those canners." Arthur looks at him. There is no triumph in his eyes, no anger, no "I told you so." Just a quiet, unshakable truth. "She's paying me triple your grade A price, Frank. She says the ugly ones have more flavor." He pauses, lets the words hang in the air. "She said you have to be a good listener to hear it." He picks up his bag of supplies and walks away. Frank Miller is left standing in the aisle. The smile fades from his face. He feels something he can't quite name. It feels like the ground shifting beneath his feet, the quiet devastation of a certainty collapsing. He had been kind. He had been helpful. He had been wrong, completely and utterly wrong for 24 years. And he had never even thought to listen. That's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of the legacy. Elara Vance launches Simmons Russet Perry. Perry is the proper name for hard cider made from pears. It is an immediate sensation. Food writers rave about its complexity, its balance of sweetness, acid, and tannin. It wins a silver medal at a national competition in its first year. The next year, it wins gold. The story gets out. The story of the ugly pears. The stubborn farmer, the visionary cider maker. Other craft producers take notice. They start seeking out the misfits, the scarred apples, the undersized peaches, the sunburnt plums. They realize that character is born from imperfection. A small, parallel economy begins to form, one based not on appearance, but on flavor. Arthur Simmons is at the center of it. He is no longer a hermit. He is a pioneer. He starts a small consulting business. He teaches other growers how to cultivate for flavor, not for looks, how to listen to their land. In 2018, he launches the Second Chance Fruit Initiative. It's a simple online platform, a place where small growers with imperfect fruit can connect directly with craft producers. Bakers, brewers, distillers, cider makers. It bypasses the entire co-op system. It puts more money directly into the pockets of farmers. It gives value to that which was deemed worthless. Frank Miller's successor at the co-op tries to compete. He announces a new artisanal grade for fruit. It's too late. The culture has already shifted. Arthur beat them not by fighting them, but by making them irrelevant. In 2020, Arthur donates a large sum of money to the State Agricultural University. He endows a scholarship for students of pomology. The scholarship has one condition. Recipients must spend a summer working on a small, family-run farm, a farm with less than 100 acres. He wants them to learn to listen. The scholarship is named the Robert Simmons Memorial Grant, after his father, the man who taught him that the fruit knows what it is. We are back in the tasting room. The year is 2023. Elara Vance opens a glass case on the wall. Inside, resting on a bed of black velvet, is a pair of old pruning shears, the red handles worn smooth, the steel blade gleaming. "Arthur gave these to me when we signed our third contract," she tells the blogger. "He said his dad used them for 40 years. He wanted them to be somewhere they'd be understood." She closes the case gently. "He told me that day his dad always believed you just had to find who's listening. Turns out, the whole world was waiting to listen. They just needed someone to translate." The narrator's voice returns, quiet, reverent. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is being told they can't. Someone is being told they are not the right shape, the right size, the right color. And the person telling them this is not a monster. They are a friend, a mentor, a gatekeeper. They are speaking from a place of certainty. They believe they are helping. Arthur Simmons' story is a quiet reminder, a testament written on 60 acres of stubborn trees. It proves that the most revolutionary act is to believe in the value of something the world has rejected, to spend a lifetime listening to its language, and to wait patiently for the rest of the world to learn how to hear it. The greatest things are not discovered, they are recognized, often by the one person willing to look past the surface and see the truth underneath. What has the world told you is worthless? What have you been told to discard? Maybe it's time to listen a little closer. Maybe it's the most valuable thing you have. If this story resonated with you, if you believe in the power of the overlooked, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below and tell us about a time you found value where no one else did, and share this story with one person who needs to be reminded that their worth is not determined by the judgment of others, that they just need to find the people who are listening, because they are out there, they are always out there, looking for something real, something true, something with character.